The rain was coming down in sheets as I drove home from the office, the wipers on my Ford working overtime. I am Gideon, and until a few months ago I thought I had the perfect life. I was 43, a software architect at a tech firm in Seattle. My wife, Aaliyah, was beautiful, intelligent, and worked as a marketing manager. We lived in a comfortable house in the suburbs, had two lovely dogs, and were generally happy. Or so I thought. It started subtly. Aaliyah began working late more often. She had always been career-driven, but this was different. She became distant, less affectionate. I chalked it up to stress at work. Big projects, tight deadlines, the usual corporate grind. I tried to be supportive, making dinner, running errands, just trying to ease her burden. One evening, I was working from home when Aaliyah's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. It was a text message. I wouldn't normally glance at her phone, but the screen lit up, displaying a name I didn't recognize. Cassian. The message read, "Can't wait to see you tonight." A chill ran down my spine. Cassian? Who the hell was Cassian? I felt a knot forming in my stomach, a cold dread creeping into my heart. I tried to dismiss it, to rationalize it away. Maybe it was a work thing, a new client, a harmless flirtation. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. That night, Aaliyah said she had to work late again. I watched her leave, a wave of nausea washing over me. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was lying. I decided to do something I never thought I'd do. I followed her. I kept a safe distance, my heart pounding in my chest. She drove to a small Italian restaurant downtown, a place we'd often frequented together. I parked across the street and watched as she walked inside. A few minutes later, I saw her greeting a man with a warm embrace. It was Cassian. I sat there frozen as they laughed and talked, their faces close. I watched them hold hands across the table, their eyes locked in a way they hadn't been with me in years. The reality of the situation hit me like a punch to the gut. Aaliyah was having an affair. With Cassian, the drive home was a blur. I felt numb, disoriented, like I was watching my life crumble before my eyes. I walked into the house, the silence amplifying the turmoil raging inside me. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. I just sat there, staring at the walls, trying to make sense of what I had just witnessed. Aaliyah came home around 11 p.m., her face flushed, her eyes bright. "Long night," she said, forcing a smile. "How was your evening?" I looked at her, at the woman I had loved and trusted, and felt a surge of anger, of betrayal, of utter disbelief. "It was enlightening," I said, my voice cold and hard. "I know about Cassian." Her face paled. "Gideon, I don't," I interrupted, holding up my hand. "Don't insult my intelligence with lies. I saw you at the restaurant, holding hands, laughing, looking at him like you used to look at me." Tears welled up in her eyes. "It just happened," she said, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean for it to what?" I exploded. "You didn't mean for it to happen. You think you can just erase the last few months, the lies, the deceit, with a simple 'I didn't mean to'?" She started sobbing, begging for forgiveness, promising it wouldn't happen again. But the damage was done. The trust was broken. The love, or what I thought was love, was shattered into a million pieces. I told her to leave. I couldn't bear to look at her, to be in the same room with her. She packed a bag and left, the sound of the door slamming echoing through the empty house. The next few weeks were a living hell. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I replayed every moment of our relationship in my head, searching for clues, for signs I had missed. I felt like a fool, a naive idiot who had been blind to the truth. I hired a private investigator, a woman named Willow, to dig into Cassian's background. I needed to know who he was, what he did, what Aaliyah saw in him. Willow was efficient and thorough. She uncovered a string of affairs, of broken hearts and shattered lives. Cassian was a serial cheater, a manipulator who preyed on vulnerable women. I confronted Aaliyah with the information. She was devastated, heartbroken. She claimed she didn't know, that Cassian had lied to her, that she was just as much a victim as I was. But I didn't believe her. She had made her choices, and she had to live with the consequences. I filed for divorce. The process was messy and painful, filled with lawyers and paperwork and bitter accusations. Aaliyah fought me on everything, trying to squeeze every last penny out of me. But I was determined to move on, to rebuild my life, to find happiness again. One day, Willow called me with some unexpected news. "I did some digging into Cassian's finances," she said. "Turns out he's been embezzling money from his company. A significant amount." I was shocked. Cassian, the charming, charismatic lover, was a thief. I decided to do something about it. I contacted the authorities, providing them with the evidence Willow had uncovered. An investigation was launched and Cassian was arrested. Aaliyah called me, distraught. "Gideon, how could you do this to him?" she cried. "You're ruining his life. He ruined our life, Aaliyah," I said, my voice cold. "He deserves everything he gets." Cassian was convicted and sentenced to several years in prison. Aaliyah was left to pick up the pieces, her reputation tarnished, her life in shambles. I moved on. I sold the house, quit my job, and moved to a small town on the coast. I started a new business, a small software consulting firm. I focused on my work, on my hobbies, on rebuilding my life. One evening I was sitting on my porch watching the sunset when I received a text message from an unknown number. It was Aaliyah. "I'm sorry," she wrote, "for everything. I hope you can find happiness." I didn't reply. I didn't know what to say. The pain was still there, the scars still visible, but I was healing, I was moving on. I was finding my way back to happiness. Years passed. I met someone new, a wonderful woman named Isolde. We fell in love, got married, and built a life together. I finally found the happiness I had been searching for, the love I had thought was lost forever. One day, I received a letter from Aaliyah. She was sick, terminally ill. She asked if I would come to see her. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to refuse, to turn my back on her, to let her suffer the consequences of her actions. But another part of me, a small part of me, still remembered the good times, the happy memories we had shared. I decided to go. I flew back to Seattle and went to see her in the hospital. She was frail and weak, barely recognizable. She apologized again, tears streaming down her face. She said she regretted everything, that she had made a terrible mistake. I sat there, listening, my heart aching. I didn't forgive her, not completely. But I offered her a measure of peace, a moment of comfort in her final days. I told her that I had moved on, that I was happy, that I hoped she could find peace as well. She died a few weeks later. I didn't attend the funeral. I had said my goodbyes. I had moved on with my life. Betrayal leaves scars that never fully heal, but it doesn't have to define you. You can survive. You can rebuild. You can find happiness again. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes courage, but it is possible. I am living proof. And as the rain continues to fall outside, I can finally say, I am at peace.